Mataji, I think we need to find a way to automate all this. Yeah, it's kind of taking long time.
Yes, Prabhuji.
ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाखया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपा कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरुश्रीयुतापदकमलान् श्रीगुरुवैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगणरघुनाथान्वितां तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणललित श्रीविशाख अन्वितांश्च नमां विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिधि नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वतदेवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धो दीनबन्धो जगत्पते गोपीश गोपिका कान्ता राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तु ते तप्तकाञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. Reading from Śrīla Prabhupāda-līlāmṛta Volume 1 Chapter 27 India Revisited Part 1. The plane flew during the night and arrived in London by morning. Srila Prabhupada had planned a stopover. He checked into an airport hotel, took his massage and rested. In the afternoon he rose and bathed, and then he and Kirtanananda boarded their plane uh, bound for New Delhi via Moscow. While the plane was still on the ground, however, a crew member announced a short delay. Dave was now sick, apparently with smallpox, so the plane would have to be thoroughly fumigated. Prabhupada and Kirtananda stayed in a room at Excelsior Hotel for the night. Early the next morning, July 24th, seated in his hotel room, complete with air conditioning and television, neither of which he had used, Srila Prabhupada wrote a letter to Brahmananda in New York. Accept my blessings. I am always thinking of our separation feelings. Please do not do your duty nicely, and Krishna will help you in all respects. We were delayed here for 16 hours, starting this morning at 9 for Delhi. The attention of Mr. B.K. Nehru, the ambassador of India, was drawn to me the other day. I have told him about my permanent visa and he has promised to help me when I come back. Please make an appointment with him informing that I wish to present him our set of Bhagavatam and our other literatures. Then go to him and personally present the books, etc. at Washington, D.C. It may be that as soon as I feel some strength, I shall be coming back. Up to now, there was no disturbance about um, my health, and I hope to reach Delhi this night. I shall write you again after reaching Vrindavan. Convey my ardent affection and blessings for all the boys and girls. I am very much hopeful of my movement. Please keep steady. Follow all my instructions scrupulously. Chant Hare Krishna and Krishna will give you all strength. Prabhupada and Kirtananda flew to Moscow. There, they walked around the terminal, observing what Prabhupada called propaganda pictures. After a 1 hour stopover, they reboarded and flew another 8 hours, arriving in Delhi around midnight. The wall of heat that greeted them felt good to Prabhupada. He had come for this. Inside the airport terminal, overhead fans stirred the muggy air as Prabhupada and Kirtananda stood in slow moving lines while ununiformed clerks checked passports and custom forms without Western style computers or efficiencies. Just beyond the areas for immigration and customs, people waiting for arriving passengers were waving, calling, and coming together with friends and family members. After Prabhupada and Kirtananda claimed their luggage and cleared customs, they stood on the sidewalk outside the terminal. Although Prabhupada had removed his sweater, Kirtananda stood sweatering in his black wool suit. It was 2 a.m. All around, passengers were meeting loved ones who embraced them, sometimes even garlanded them, and helped them into cars or taxis. But no one was there for Prabhupada. It was certainly different from the recent tearful airport scenes where Prabhupada had been with his loved ones. Now, instead of being surrounded by loving disciples, Prabhupada was besieged by taxi drivers and porters wanting to carry his luggage for a free. In Hindi, Prabhupada asked one of the drivers to take them to Chippiwada in Old Delhi. The driver put their luggage in the trunk, and Prabhupada and his disciple climbed into the back seat. The small ambassador taxi drove through streets well known to Srila Prabhupada. Nighttime traffic was light, an occasional taxi or a motor rickshaw. Mostly the streets were empty and quiet, the shops closed, and an occasional person or cow sleeping outdoors. Just a few years before, Prabhupada had sold Back to Godhead magazine, solicited donations, and printed his Srimad Bhagavatam here. In those days, he had been alone, practically without money or residence. Yet he had been happy, completely dependent on Krishna. But India's leaders were rejecting Vedic culture and imitating the West. Although some Indians still profess to follow Vedic culture, mostly they were victims of hodgepodge teachers who didn't accept Krishna as Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he had felt obliged to leave, to go and transplant the Vedic culture in the West. He had held strictly to the vision of his predecessors, spiritual masters, and he had been proven right. The West was a very good field for Krishna consciousness. As the taxi drove through Old Delhi and approached Chavri Bazaar, Prabhupada saw the printing and paper shops now closed for the night, and the usual dense traffic of human-hauled carts was now absent, though some laborers were sleeping on their carts till the morning, when they would bathe in an outdoor well and begin another day's hauling. When Srila Prabhupada had been overseeing the publishing of his first volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam, he had daily walked the streets, buying paper, picking up proofs from the printer, returning with the corrected proofs. His first canto had been a trump. Shabri Bazaar led to side streets that led to the narrow lanes of Chippiwada, where upright metal posts blocked autos and rickshaws from entering. The driver stopped the taxi on an empty road and turned for his payment. Prabhupada took from his billfold 40 rupees, the same 40 rupees he had carried with him on the boat to America in 1965. But the driver took the entire 40 rupees and said he would keep it all just just fare. Prabhupada protested. The fare should not be even half that. Loudly they argued back and forth in Hindi. The driver had pocketed the money and would give no change. Prabhupada knew that to get a policeman at this hour would be very difficult. Finally, although this had been nothing less than a robbery, Prabhupada let the man go. He cheated me, Prabhupada said. He and Kirtanananda took their luggage and walked the last block up to the door of Chippiwada Radhakrishna temple. It was locked. As they pounded loudly, Prabhupada called out for Sri Krishna Pandit until a man came to the door, recognized Prabhupada, and let them in. The man showed them upstairs and unlocked the door to Prabhupada's room. Prabhupada turned on light. The room was bare and dusty, and the bulb hanging from the ceiling created stark light and shadows. On the floor was 3 foot high cement dome, indicating that directly below were the altar and the deities of Radha and Krishna. The dome prevented anyone from accidentally committing the offense of walking directly above the deities. The closet was stacked with printed Srimad Bhagavatam pages, Srimad Bhagavatam dust jackets, and form letters to prospective members of the League of Devotees. Everything was just as Prabhupada had left it. This is the room where I compiled Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada told Kirtananda. I slept here, and over here was my cooker and my typewriter. I would sleep and type and cook and type and sleep and type. Kirtananda was shocked to think of Swamiji living here in such a poor, humble place. It wasn't even clean. Although Kirtananda was comfortable in his suit and wondered when he would be able to get rid of it, he managed to get a thin mattress for Swamiji. Two Ayurvedic doctors came. They both agreed that the trouble was Swamiji's heart, but that the danger was now past. They gave him medicines and advised him to keep to a regulated schedule of eating, resting, and walking. Sri Krishna Pandit came by to sit and converse, and Prabhupada told him of his success in America and all of the young devotees in New York and San Francisco. Prabhupada played his record for Sri Krishna Pandit, and this drew a crowd of curious persons from other rooms in the temple. In the afternoon, Prabhupada developed a cough. It didn't seem serious, and he said he wanted to travel the next day to Vrindavan. But by evening, the cough had become persistent. He couldn't rest. Kirtananda tried massages and the pills the Ayurvedic doctors have prescribed, but nothing worked. Prabhupada remained awake all night, and when Kirtananda touched him in the morning, he was feverish. The doctors came again. Prabhupada's temperature was over 104. They gave teas and Ayurvedic powders, while Kirtananda looked on skeptically. Because Prabhupada was having a lot of difficulty breathing when he lay down, Kirtananda thought it might be pneumonia. So Kirtananda gave him penicillin, of which he had brought a supply. In the afternoon, an elderly Sikh doctor who practiced Western medicine came by and gave Prabhupada the penicillin injection. Prabhupada then fell asleep and rested quietly for first time in 24 hours. While Prabhupada slept, Kirtananda wrote a letter to his godbrothers in New York. I know you would like me to say straight out my opinion as to how he is, and that is not good. The outcome, as always, but now very apparently, is only in Krishna's hands. Please chant Hare Krishna, for that is the only thing that can save him. That is what saved him before, and that can do it again. I know that his task is not yet complete, and by Krishna's mercy, he can again be spared. Keithananda also asked the New York devotees to call the devotees in San Francisco, Santa Fe, and Boston and have them continue chanting for Swamiji's health. He reminded them to strictly follow all of Swamiji's instructions. The next day, Srila Prabhupada's fever was down to 100.6. He was still sick, but he talked again of going to Vrindavan. He dictated a letter to his book-selling agents in Delhi, Atmaram and Sons, asking them for an up-to-date account of their sales of his Srimad Bhagavatam. Old acquaintances came by and were disappointed to find Swamiji unable to accept their invitations. Prabhupada asked that they invite Kirtananda in his stead. For several days, Kirtananda visited the homes of these pious Hindus. He played the record on his portable phonograph, chanting along and dancing with his arms upraised. Then he would give a short speech. His host accepted him as a sadhu, fascinated that an American had taken so seriously to Krishna consciousness. On August 1st, after 6 days in Delhi, Prabhupada went to Vrindavan. Kirtanananda rode back to New York. My dear brothers and sisters, greeting in the name of Krishna from Vrindavan. Obviously, Swamiji is much better, especially after reaching Vrindavan. His eyes now have a special glow. We left Delhi yesterday, 31st morning on the Taj Express, and in 2 hours were at Mathura. We rode special third class, and it was quite satisfactory, not at all crowded like the usual third class. Anyway, we are now here and are in the process of settling down. Swamiji has two very nice rooms, quite cool, just off the porch where the Bhagavatam is read. How appropriate. The only difficulty on his behalf is that these Indians all want to see him, and they are very persistent, and I am not very successful in keeping them out. Vrindavan Seen materially is a very beautiful place. The country is very flat and there are many trees, monkeys, peacocks, and of course temples. It is also very poor. Both the people and the temples are in a bad state of despair. But spiritually considered, there are many great devotees here, and it is wonderful to walk down the streets and see tea logs over the place and all over the place and people chanting on their beats. If I can develop a fraction of their devotion for Krishna, my life will be successful. It is also thrilling to hear the temple bells ringing so many times throughout the day. Last night I played our record for Lord Damodar here in the temple and then performed kirtan with some of the local devotees. It was very nice, but you will be surprised, I think, when I say that I prefer your kirtan in New York. After Prabhupada had been in Vrindavan only one day and his health had only slightly improved, he began planning his return to America. I am always thinking of you, he wrote to the devotees whom he addressed as his dear students. I cannot stop my Western world activities and I have taken leave from you only for 6 months, and it may be that on or before I will come to you again. Kirtanananda says, from my bodily features that I am improving. I am also feeling like that. In Delhi, Prabhupada had received a letter from Brahmananda saying that the Macmillan Company was definitely interested in publishing the Bhagavad Gita. In Vrindavan, Prabhupada wrote Brahmananda to sign a contract at once on his behalf. Prabhupada had been considering whether to print privately in Japan or India or to wait for Macmillan. He wasn't concerned with the prestige and financial advantages of publishing through Macmillan. His first concern was to print as quickly as possible. I shall be satisfied with the commission and shall only be glad to see that the books are being read by hundreds and thousands of men. Whatever profit may be derived from it will be utilized for the development of an American house here. Prabhupada stayed in his old rooms at Radha Damodar temple. Still incapacitated, he was being massaged and cared for by Kirtanananda, who himself was listless and tired from the heat. But Prabhupada continued to range from one active and ambitious vision for his youthful Krishna consciousness movement to another. He would think aloud about the volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam ready to be published if Macmillan would take them and the boys could act on his behalf. There was so much to do. He wanted to return by October and oversee things personally. Temperatures rose to more than 110 degrees, and Prabhupada and Kirtananda had to stay inside with the doors shut and the overhead fan on. Although Kirtananda could barely perform his duties, Prabhupada found the heat bracing and said that it was restoring his health. Then, after the few weeks, the monsoon rains began and the heat broke. On August 10, Kirtananda wrote home back, God is it a hot place. But at last the rains have started again and there is some relief from that heat. You can believe me when I say it was hot, but now it is raining a great deal of time and that has made the weather quite comfortable for me, but unfortunately not for Swamiji. Also, I have developed the inevitable case of dysentery, which has been persisting for about a week now. Yesterday began the festival of Julan, in which Radha and Krishna come out and swing for about 5 days. So I made the rounds of about a half a dozen temples here. Some of them are extremely beautiful inside, although most are small. Still, I can say this with all truthfulness and sincerity that none are so transcendently beautiful and spiritual as 3720 Park Avenue, Montreal, and I think even Swamiji would agree with me this there. Kirtananda's letter gave heart to the devotees back home and confirmed their suspicion. It was not Hinduism, not India, it was Swamiji and chanting Hare Krishna that was sustaining their spiritual life. As Prabhupada's spiritual children wrote from fledgling centers in half a dozen cities in North America, he would reply, Vrindavan is an inspiration only, but our real field work is all over the world. Even if I die, you are my future hopes and you will do it. I am feeling very much for you all. Please let the ball roll on just as it is set. Brahmananda wrote from New York asking for an explanation of why Swamiji, a pure devotee, was suffering serious illness. Swamiji had explained that conditioned souls and even beginning devotees are attacked by Maya. But was Swamiji also being attacked by Maya? On August 14, Srila Prabhupada replied, Don't be afraid of my being attacked by Maya. When there is fight between two belligerent parties, it is always expected that there will sometimes be reverses. Your country and the Western world is mostly under the grip of Maya and the modes of nature of in passion and ignorance. And my declaration of war against the Maya is certainly a great battle. Maya saw me very successful within 1 year, so that I got so many sincere young followers like yourselves and others. So it was a great defeat to the activities of Maya. Western country youngsters giving up illicit sex, intoxication, meat eating, and gambling is certainly a great reverse in the activities of Maya. Therefore, she took advantage of my old age weakness and gave me a death dash. But Krishna saved me. Therefore, we should thank more Krishna than eulogize Maya. So far as my present health is concerned, I think I am improving. At least I am taking lunch better than in New York. So as soon as I am a little fit to return to the field of battle, I shall again be in your midst. Srila Prabhupada envisioned an American house, a place where resident disciples could study Sanskrit and Vaishnava literature in Vrindavan. When he had suffered his stroke, he had said that Rayaram should finish the translation of Bhagavatams. He had also requested Achyutananda, Gaurasundara, and others to learn Sanskrit, Bengali, and Hindi so that if he did not recover, they could carry on his work. And he hoped that some of his leading members like Brahmananda, Hayagriva, and Rayarama would come to India, obtain property, and establish his American house. Even if I am well, he wrote on September 9, it is not possible for me to look after the affairs of the American house. Prabhupada decided to ask one of his godbrothers, Swami B.N. Bon Maharaj, to accommodate some students from America at his Institute of Oriental Philosophy. Swami Bon Maharaj's institute was a provincial college of about 300 students located in Vrindavan and affiliated with Agra University. It was what is known in India as a degree college, an institution geared toward improving the economic condition of its graduates by making them eligible for better jobs. When Srila Prabhupada and Kirtanananda visited Swami Bon Maharaj at the Institute of Oriental Philosophy, Swami Bon received them in a clean parlour furnished with chairs, couches, and a radio. Swami Bon, wearing leather slippers, shorts visible through his thin dhotis, and, and an ironed shirt with brass studs, appeared soft and sophisticated, an educated man with straight, neatly parted, graying hair. Although a resident of Vrindavan in the 1930s, he had spent several years in England where he had been received by members of royal family and had lectured at a number of colleges. But he had aroused no lasting interest. When Prabhupada had been struggling alone in New York in 1965, he had wrote to Swami Bon asking for help. But Swami Bon had not responded. Even now, as Prabhupada told him of the work in America, Bon Maharaj didn't have much to say. But he was interested in the prospect of Americans coming to live and study at his institute. Foreign students would enhance the prestige of the institute in the eyes of the government. He said the students could possibly be accommodated free of charge. Encouraged by the meeting with Bon Maharaj, Prabhupada wrote several letters to his disciples inviting them to come and study Sanskrit. If you want to learn Sanskrit, there is an ample opportunity in this institute. We had some preliminary talks, and it's hopeful that Swami Bon can give us some land for our own building. But even so, arrangements can be made with existing facilities so that there would be no difficulty for the students who come here to study Sanskrit and the Goswami literature. It is a good opportunity for our students, and I shall be very glad to learn how many of you desire to come. On Janmashtami Day, August 28, Srila Prabhupada awarded the order of sannyas to Kirtanananda in a ceremony in Radha Damodar temple. Kirtanananda thus became Srila Prabhupada's first disciple to become a sannyasi. Kirtanananda Swami, during the initiation, hundreds of visitors were present observing the birthday of Lord Krishna, and many of them came by to congratulate the young sannyasi. Someone said he looked like Lord Chaitanya. Srila Prabhupada wrote. Srila Prabhupada wrote, he will be going back to the States very soon to begin preaching work with greater vigor and success. In the meantime, I shall try to utilize this white sannyasi for recruiting some members in India. Early in September, Achyutananda arrived in Delhi. A Hindu lady gave him 5 rupees and he took the train to Mathura, where he got directions to Keshavji Gaudiya Mutt. Narayan Maharaj, a friend of Prabhupada's, took Achyutananda under his care and after showing him the hall where Prabhupada had taken sannyas in 1959, put him on a bus to Vrindavan with an old gentleman for an escort. Accompanied by this escort, Achyutananda arrived by rickshaw before Radha Damodar temple. Achyutananda walked into Prabhupada's room and fell prostrate at his feet. Oh, Prabhupada said, "You are here." When Achyutananda looked up, he saw that Swamiji had a 5 day beard and was wearing only one piece of cloth wrapped around his waist from behind, crossed over his chest, and tied behind his neck. Prabhupada smiled, apparently in good health. Kirtananda also greeted Achyutananda and showed him his new danda. For Achyutananda, the most wonderful thing about Swamiji in Vrindavan was the simplicity of his life. Although in New York, Swamiji had worn simple robes, he had always been regal a guru. But here he lived very simply and humbly. Once, when he sat down on veranda outside his room to wash his hands, his body instantly became covered with flies. Kirtananda and Achyutananda were always being bothered by flies. This was the rainy season, but Prabhupada scarcely noticed them and sat quietly washing his hands. Kirtananda and Achyutananda agreed that Swamiji wasn't just another Vrindavan Babaji. There was no one else like him. Certainly, Gaur Chand Goswami, proprietor of Radha Damodar temple, wasn't like Swamiji. He wore thick glasses and could barely see, and when Kirtananda and Achyutananda went before the deities in temple, Gaurachand Goswami asked them loudly, "So, how do you like him? Which one do you like the best?" "I like them all," said Achyutananda. "I like that big one on the end there," said the priest, pointing in an offhand manner at the deities of Krishna. "It looks a bit like General Chaudhary." Then Swamiji's boys exchanged looks. "What kind of guys are these?" and went back to Swamiji for an explanation. They are caste Goswamis, Prabhupada explained. The original Goswamis, such as Jiva Goswami, who established the Radha Damodar temple, had engaged householders to worship the deities, and these caste Goswamis were descendants of those first householder pujaris. Prabhupada explained that the caste Goswamis were the proprietors of the temple and that they maintained the temple and ran the deity worship or as a business to support their families. Several years ago, each of the deities now on the altar had his own temple, land, income, and priests. But for economy, the Goswamis had sold the property, reduced the opulence of the worship, and amalgamated the deities. There were many other interesting characters. The old widow Sarajini with bald head and shikha and used bare feet who slept in a room by the gate of the temple and swept Swamiji's kitchen and washed his clothes. Panchudas Goswami, the temple proprietor's son, who always chewed pan and went around the sleepy eyed in a silky dhoti with a red embroidered border. The dark old Babaji who came at night, who was constantly laughing and who made sandalwood paste for the Swamiji, the local herbal doctor Vanamali Kaviraj, who preceded brightly smiling from behind a desk in a in a tiny chamber filled from ceiling to floor with little bottles, and a famous pandit who visited Swamiji and wore a gold-linked tulsi necklace and diamond rings. All of these persons were devotees, residents of holy Vrindavan, but no one was like Swamiji. Kirtananda Swami even became disappointed that no one else in Vrindavan was like Swamiji. In the land where everyone was an Indian and everyone was a devotee, Swamiji was still unique. No one else was so simple, so grave, so able to penetrate through falsity, so attractive to the heart, or so absolutely attached to Krishna. No one else could lead them. If Kirtanananda Swami and Achyutananda Swami were doubtful about some of the residents of Vrindavan, some of the residents of Vrindavan were also doubtful of them. When a European hippie couple wandered into Vrindavan one day, Achyutananda accompanied them to some of the temples, but at the Ranganath temple they were refused entry. Achyutananda told Prabhupada, who replied, "That's because you went with those fools." When Prabhupada walked in the streets, people regularly nodded to him with respect, saying, Dandavat Maharaj. But they were cautious about accepting his American followers as Vaishnavas. Srila Prabhupada, accompanied by his two disciples, again visited Swami Bon. Riding to Swami Bon's institute by rickshaw, Prabhupada told Achyutananda that Swami Bon had started the institute as an academy of Vaishnava study but had affiliated with Agra University because the institute had not been bringing in any money. Now Swami Bon had money, but the institute had become an ordinary school devoid of spiritual value. As Srila Prabhupada and his disciples sat in Swami Bon's uh, parlor, Bon Maharaj made it clear that although he would not donate land for Prabhupada's American house, Prabhupada's students could come and study at his institution. Achyutananda, he suggested, could be the first one. Swami then took them to the main building to visit a class in session. Instead of seeing Pandits and Brahmacharis studying Sanskrit as they had expected, Prabhupada's disciple saw boys with thin moustache and giggling girls. Prabhupada lectured and then asked Kirtananda to play the Hare Krishna record. After a few minutes, Bon Maharaj told Kirtananda to stop the record, but Kirtananda, seeing Swamiji enjoying the record, let it play. Achyutananda. We walked around the place and I thought this is just a mundane school. I don't want to go here. If I could learn Sanskrit and live at Radha Damodar temple, then I could have a nice time in India. They continued their tour of the facilities, and after seeing the dormitory, Prabhupada doubted whether his American disciples could endure the austerity and the academic studies. It seemed that one of the two boys was always sick. First, Kirtanananda Swami had gotten dysentery, then something had been wrong with Achyutananda's stomach, then they had both been exhausted from the heat. On the whole, Srila Prabhupada wrote to Rupanuga in New York, the American boys who come here become first depressed. So I do not know how far our American house in Vrindavan will be successful. His boys were not particularly studious or austere. Besides, both Kirtanananda Swami and Achyutananda had developed a definite dislike for the rector of the Institute of Oriental Philosophy. And Srila Prabhupada obviously had reservations about the place. You can go and study there, Prabhupada told them, but don't live there. Live at Radha Damodar temple and go. You can get a bicycle and go there. Gradually, the idea of immediately acquiring an American house in Vrindavan began to dwindle. Prabhupada needed his own place for his disciples, and that would take time. With regular medication, massages, rest, and the heat of Vrindavan, Prabhupada felt himself recovering. By mid September, he declared himself 90% fit to return to the United States. He predicted that he would be back there by end of October. B.R. Sridhar Maharaj, Prabhupada's godbrother, whose ashram was in Navadvip, West Bengal, wrote to invite Prabhupada to spend the month of Kartik with him at the ashram and join him for his Vyasa Puja celebration. Srila Prabhupada liked the idea of going to the holy land of Navadvip where Lord Chaitanya had spent early years seeing his godbrother. He also wanted to visit Delhi again and inquired about printing his books. Swamiji, Achyutananda asked, when you go to Navadvip, am I supposed to stay here in Vrindavan and study? Don't you want to see the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya? Prabhupada asked. Achyutananda did, and Prabhupada, Kirtanananda, Swami, and Achyutananda left Vrindavan together and returned to Chippiwada temple in Delhi. For Prabhupada's two disciples, life at Chippiwada temple was hard. Delhi was blazing hot and lacked the charm of Vrindavan. There was water for only 2 hours a day, early in the morning, and that only a slow trickle. They would fill two clay jugs for Prabhupada's room and several buckets for his bath and their own, and then there would be no more water for the rest of the day. A mongoose ran freely through the building. Do they eat snakes? Achyutananda asked. They eat snakes, said Srila Prabhupada. They eat garbage. They eat anything. Prabhupada, who regarded the heat and lack of water and even the mongoose as normal, was undisturbed. Several young Indian musicians in the adjacent room regularly played cinema music on their electric organ, bongo drums, and electric guitars, rehearsing for a dance. Prabhupada tolerated it. Sri Krishna Pandit praised Prabhupada's work in America and his English translation of Srimad Bhagavatam. As manager of the Chippewada Radha Krishna Temple and secretary of an active Hinduism society, Sri Krishna Pandit was interested in spreading Hindu Dharma, and therefore he wanted Prabhupada to speak at the nearby Gauri Shankar Temple, one of the Delhi's most popular Hindu temples. Prabhupada agreed to go and take with him Achyutananda. Kirtananda Swami was already left for the West on August 22. The Gauri Shankara temple was on Chandi Chowk. After a short walk through some of the busiest, most congested streets of Old Delhi, Prabhupada and Achyutananda removed their shoes at the door and entered the temple. The main deity was Lord Shiva, but there were many others: Rama, Durga, Kali, Radha, Krishna, Hanuman. The crowds stood before the elaborate altars, viewing and petitioning the various deities. Achyutananda had learned about demigod worship from Prabhupada at 26 Second Avenue. According to Bhagavad Gita, demigods fulfill only material desires and are therefore worshipped by less intelligent. A Vaishnava, Prabhupada had said, respects the demigods. In fact, he respects all living beings, even the ants, but he worships only the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna or Vishnu. Achyutananda had already seen firsthand that impersonalists were misleading Indians to disavow, disavow the personal form of God and accept all methods of worship as equal. Most Indians had no clear understanding of Bhagavad Gita or Krishna. Achyutananda kept this in mind as Prabhupada led him in bowing down before a few of the demigods' altars. Then Prabhupada brought him before the deities of Radha and Krishna. Just see, Prabhupada said, Krishna is just playing his flute. As for the demigods, someone is holding bows and arrows, someone is holding clubs, someone is holding weapons, but Radha and Krishna are just dancing, and Krishna is holding a flute. So he is the Supreme Lord. In one large room, a heavy set man with a great white beard and wearing flower garlands sat on several pillows. Many people stood staring at him. He reminded Achyutananda of Santa Claus. Swamiji, who is that? Achyutananda asked. Some yogi, Prabhupada replied indifferently. The main lecture hall had a large painting of Lord Shiva on the wall and was crowded with people, women in colored saris and many of the men in bright turbans. Amid such a welter of rituals and worshippers, Achyutananda felt protected by Swamiji. They sat on the dais and Sri Krishna Pandit introduced his friend Bhakti Vedanta Swami to the crowd. Srila Prabhupada spoke in Hindi for about an hour. Walking back to Cheppivada, Achyutananda wondered why Swamiji had gone to speak at a place with such a hodgepodge worship. But without his asking, it occurred to him that Swamiji was willing to speak about Krishna anywhere to anyone. Hadn't he come to New York City? And what could be a more hodgepodge place than New York's Lower East Side? Sitting on the veranda outside his room, Prabhupada could see the huge domes of Jama Mosque in the early evening sky. One evening, as Prabhupada sat softly chanting Japa, and as Achyutananda, who had not yet memorized the Gayatri Mantra, sat nearby reading it to himself, a Hindu gentleman came and conversed with Prabhupada. Achyutananda soon finished the Gayatri Mantra and sat listening to his spiritual master talking in Hindi to the unknown gentleman. Achyutananda could catch only a word here or there, some mention of Ayurvedic medicine, addresses, Indian names, cities. They talked for hours, and Achyutananda wondered who this man was who could speak so long with Swamiji. When the man left, Achyutananda asked, Swamiji, was he your god brother? Prabhupada said, no. Is he a Swami? Prabhupada said, no. Is he one of your relatives? No. Well, who was he? He is my friend, Prabhupada answered emphatically. Sometimes Prabhupada's visitors would bring donations of cloth or fruits or even complete cooked meals in metal tiffins. One visitor, a middle aged woman who had heard Prabhupada speak at the Gauri Shankar temple, came to Prabhupada's office in Chippiwada requesting initiation. Prabhupada spoke with her, agreed, and had Achyutananda prepare a small fire sacrifice. At her initiation, he gave her the name Mukunda Dasi. She came daily to clean Prabhupada's room, and when she saw that his wooden peg sandals were broken, she bought him new ones. Chandrasekhar had known Srila Prabhupada for several years and was supposed to have been his secretary, but he was drunkard. Prabhupada suspected him of having stolen from his mailbox more than 2000 rupees during the past 2 years. Prabhupada's Chippiwad address was listed in his magazines and books, and people had been sending money for the books and back to in magazine subscriptions. Even in the past 2 months, Prabhupada's disciples had written that they were enclosing money in their letters, but Prabhupada never found any. One day he caught sight of Chandrasekhar in the building and asked him, "Where is my mailbox key?" "I believe you have it," Chandrasekhar replied, "or maybe Sri Krishna Pandit has it." Chandrasekhar was drunk. "Swamiji," Achyutananda said angrily, "uh, maybe we should make a police case." Prabhupada shook his head. "No." Well, Achyutananda said, "If he is not punished by the law, then in his next birth Krishna will punish him." "That's true," Prabhupada agreed. Chandrasekhar looked fearfully from Prabhupada to his American disciple. "Then there's only one thing to do," Achyutananda said. "Shall I call police?" "No," said Prabhupada. "I forgive him." Yet, only a few days later, Prabhupada's record player disappeared, and Prabhupada suspected the drunkard Chandrasekhar. Prabhupada brought Achyutananda with him to his bank, the Bank of Baroda, to exchange some American currency. As they were about to enter the door, the guard refused them entry, thinking they were sadhus come to beg. Prabhupada was angry. He spoke loudly in Hindi to the guard, and an old man with a shotgun, a big strap of bullets, and a shabby semi official uniform. "I have an account here," Prabhupada protested. Finally, the guard allowed them to enter. Prabhupada went straight to the manager and complained. "Do you think," Prabhupada said, "because I am a sadhu, I am to be regarded as a beggar?" Prabhupada told the man of his organization in America and his account in Bank of Baroda. The manager apologized and reprimanded the guard. One day, Prabhupada sent Achyutananda to a certain restaurant. "If you want to see varieties of Indian food," Prabhupada said, "tell the man you want 10 rupees of sweets and 10 rupees of salty preparations. That is called misti and nimaka. And just see the varieties." Achyutananda was sick and couldn't imagine eating a lot of sweets, but he stopped by a restaurant and looked. When he returned to the temple at Chippiwada, he told Prabhupada that he had seen the food, although he couldn't eat it. "Yes, but just see the varieties," Prabhupada concluded, and he explained how Krishna consciousness was personal and full of varieties, not dry. Another American disciple joined Prabhupada, Ramanuja, from Haight-Ashbury. He had been initiated just before Swamiji had left San Francisco, and he sported a full black beard. Prabhupada didn't like the beard. Cautiously and indirectly he mentioned it, but Ramanuja's beard stayed. Ramanuja carried a book about Tibetan Buddhism, and he didn't seem fixed in Krishna consciousness philosophy. But here he was, one of the looser, sentimental San Francisco devotees, ready for Indian adventure with Swamiji. Srila Prabhupada visited with a wealthy Delhi industrialist Mr. Seth Dalmia to discuss plans for printing some of his books in India. Mr. Dalmia received him well but gave only vague promises of help. Prabhupada also met with Hitsaran Sharan, Mr. Dalmia's secretary, who worked closely with Hanuman Prasad Poddar of popular religious publishing company Gita Press. Srila Prabhupada was already acquainted with all three gentlemen since they had all donated toward his first volume of Srimad Bhagavatam. Prabhupada wanted Gita Press to publish his Gitopanishad and Srimad Bhagavatam. Hitsaran Sharma um, showed him an illustrated Gita in Hindi poetry that he had recently published. "But my Gita, my Bhagavatam," said Srila Prabhupada, appearing disgusted, is the description of God. It is description of Krishna. Mr. Sharma said he couldn't see how Gita Press could print Prabhupada's voluminous writings. Nevertheless, Prabhupada still considered privately printing Gitopanishad with Mr. Sharma as his agent. On October 11, Prabhupada wrote to Brahmananda, "We must have our books printed. We have wasted much time in the matter of editing and finding out a suitable publisher. When I was alone, there was Three volumes published, but during the last 2 years I could not publish a single volume more. It is a great defeat. If I have one or two sincere souls like you, and if we can make more publications, then our mission will be a great success. I am prepared to sit down underneath a tree with one sincere soul, and in such activity I shall be freed of all diseases. Devotees from America were regularly writing Swamiji, anxious to see him again in good health, but he didn't want to leave India, he explained, until he personally saw that the printing of his Gita Upanishad was underway. Printing Gita Upanishad and obtaining approval for permanent residency in the US were the two short term goals he wished to achieve before returning. But he thought often of his return to America. As you all are feeling my separation, similarly I am also anxious to return as soon as possible. I think I am fit to go back to your country at present, and as scheduled previously, I am sure by end of October. I must be fit to return, but before this there are many things to be done. I am not yet assured of the permanent visa. The best thing will be that from each center an invitation should be sent that my presence is urgently required. Presently, I am very much anxious to begin printing here if Macmillan Company does not take up the work. Please therefore let me know yes or no from Macmillan. If he is not serious, then immediately send the manuscripts finished or not to the following address: Pandit Hitsaran Sharma, care of Dalmia Enterprises, Scindia House, New Delhi. After dispatching, let me know and I shall do the needful. Indian friends who visited Prabhupada's room listened eagerly as he told them about America, the millions of cars and superhighways and thousands of young people rejecting their father's wealth. But Prabhupada's visitors weren't fully able to understand his visit to America. Not that they were too simple to understand, and not just that they had never traveled in the West. Prabhupada's experience in America consisted of intimate spiritual realizations with his disciples. How could an outsider understand the dynamics of his temples and his disciples in the West? How could anyone except Prabhupada and his disciples understand these things? My mind is always with you. Practically, your country is my home now. India, India is a foreign country for me. The reason is that my spiritual family is there and my material relationships are in India. Therefore, factually, where my spiritual family exists, there is my home. Srila Prabhupada's vision of a worldwide society of devotees preaching in temples and publishing books, a vision he had had even before he had gone to America, was now becoming manifest. But it was dependent on him. In his absence, his disciples were sustained only by carrying out his orders and receiving his letters. When Dayananda and Nandarani had gone from the San Francisco temple to start a temple in Los Angeles, it had been Swamiji's instruction that had sustained and guided them. Wherever there is a new branch of our society for Krishna consciousness, I become very, very happy, and my blessings in the heart and soul are with you. On receipt of Swamiji's letter, they knew they had done the right thing. No matter that husband and wife sometimes quarreled and that there wasn't enough money, the main thing was that Swamiji was pleased. From Boston, Satsvarupa wrote that he and the other devotees there were moving from an apartment to a rented storefront near Boston University. The first time Satsvarupa entered the new storefront, he found on the floor an aerogram from Swamiji, dated October 6 from Delhi. I can understand that you have secured a very nice place in Boston, and there is a very good possibility of pushing our movement amongst the student community there. Our movement is certainly very much appealing to the younger section of your country, and if we are successful in the matter of attracting the student community in your country, certainly this movement will scatter all over the world and fulfill the foretelling of Lord Chaitanya that in every village and every town of the world, the Lord will be famous for his glorious Sankirtan movement. Please try for this with your heart and soul, and your life will be a successful mission. The letter was as good as Swamiji coming personally to open the storefront and begin the preaching. It gave Satswarup full direction and inspiration, and it was personal. In the same letter, Prabhupada had written, I am always aspiring after returning to your care and overload you with typewriting tasks. I hope we shall very soon meet again and help each other in the matter of discharging Krishna conscious engagements. I am now 90% alright and I think I can return safely. This typewriting work is done by me. For 2 days I am alone and done everything myself as experiment. This proves that I am now well. Please offer my blessings to all the boys and girls there. In New York, Mexico, Subala was trying to arrange public speaking engagements for Prabhupada's return, and Prabhupada was encouraging him. If you think I can be on television by the first week in December, then you can arrange for it because I must be in your country by middle of November. Swamiji wrote, Srila Prabhupada wrote to Janardhan in Montreal, answering his philosophical doubts and encouraging him to be patient with his spiritually reluctant wife. And to Rayaram, who was editing Back to Godhead magazine in New York, he gave another kind of thoughtful assurance. If I am sorry, I am very happy that since it Back to Godhead is entrusted to you, the things are improving. This means that Krishna is giving you more and more facilities. Krishna is such a nice boss that he gives more facilities and improvement to the sincere servant. On October 9th, the day Prabhupada started for Calcutta, he left behind a different kind of letter for Sri Krishna Pandit. Prabhupada had been negotiating with Sri Krishna Pandit to purchase Jippiwada temple for ISKCON or at least to rent the single room through a formal contract. Prabhupada wanted the room as a Delhi headquarters for printing his books. On the day of his departure, however, Sri Krishna Pandit was unavailable and Prabhupada left him a short handwritten note. If you are not selling anything with the room, then I may not come back to Delhi anymore. I will go to USA directly from Calcutta via Pacific route for which Sri Dalmia Seth has already promised for the ticket. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, His Holiness Satsvarupa Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Yes, thank you. So there was so much in today's lecture, different
Yeah,
viewpoints. Yeah. So this
more.
Prabhuji, Narayan Swami, I think he is still in India, right?
No, no, I think
No?
he left his body, yeah, as far as I remember.
Okay. Maybe
Good question.
someone
No, I
else.
mean, I know only that, yeah, he's God brother. Let me check.
Yeah.
You know this Pure Bhakti website?
Pure Bhakti, no.
Um, Let me cross check. I mean, we have also one of his disciples in who comes to our Kalwan temple also. So as far as I heard, yeah, he's not there. I'm on his website.
So are they
Born,
from
no, he left already in
from Gaudiya?
2010.
But the Gaudiya Vaishnavas.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So he left in December 29, 2010. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. But they are coming from the Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur's mutt.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I really like today's session very much because this is very much connected to so many events. Yeah. But also the importance of book distribution and how Prabhupada pushed that books are published. Yeah, it's not a one kind of model that his movement is supported. It's not like, okay, let's make a business of making some books and publish it, and then whatever earnings will come with that earnings, we can build many temples or make big projects. No, his genuine interest is that the spiritual wisdom should go all over the world. Okay.
Yes. And also the answer, like Prabhupada told about why he was attacked by Maya, was
Hmm.
very nice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. But we will be safe, yeah, because whatever attack, na, Prabhupada will protect us. He is our shelter. We don't have to worry.
Yes, Prabhuji, correct.
Okay. Anyone would like to share, comment? If not, then wish you a very nice evening. Let's meet tomorrow in Bhagavatam. वंशाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपासिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय. हरे कृष्ण.